Last night as I was sleeping, a poem by Antonio Machado, translated by Robert Bly. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that a spring was breaking out in my heart. I said, along which secret aqueduct, O water, are you coming to me? Water of a new life that I have never drunk. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that I had a beehive here inside of my heart, and the golden bees were making white combs and sweet honey out of my old failures. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that a fiery sun was giving light inside my heart. It was fiery because I felt warmth as from a hearth, and sun because it gave light and brought tears to my eyes. Last night as I slept, I dreamt, marvelous error, that it was God I had here inside my heart.
Psalm 23 from the New Revised Standard Version.
And from Opening to You, Zen-inspired translations of the Psalms by Norman Fisher.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
You are my shepherd, I am content.
You make me lie down in green pastures. You lead me beside still waters. You restore my soul.
You lead me to rest in the sweet grasses, to lie down by the quiet waters, and I am refreshed.
You lead me in the right paths for your name's sake.
You lead me down the right path, the path that unwinds in the pattern of your name.
Even though I walk in the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me.
And even if I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not fear, for you are with me, comforting me with your rod and your staff, showing me each step.
You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows.
You prepare a table for me in the midst of my adversity and moisten my cup with oil.
Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long.
Surely my cup is overflowing, and goodness and kindness will follow me all the days of my life. And in the long days beyond, I will always dwell in your house.
Growing up, I was the middle child of 3. My sister, a few years older, and my brother, a year younger, sometimes referred to me as a goody two-shoes. For yes, it was true that I strove to be good. A little like the girl in our children's story this morning, however, I struggled early with what that meant. An early take was to tell on my brother when I saw him pulled by the ear by a nun down to the principal's office for something inevitably related to another one of his unsanctioned science experiments gone awry, or to snitch on my sister when I saw her smoking with the cool kids in our neighborhood park. Surely it was good to report those who were being bad. I discovered quickly that this was not the best course to being good, as it meant that not only did I get the dreaded label goody two-shoes, but worse, my siblings inevitably dredged up something bad that I had done recently and threatened to tell Mom if I didn't keep my big mouth shut. This early reflection from my siblings back at my own faults turned out to be one of my first lessons about goodness and kindness and self-awareness. Perhaps another influence on my early conundrum about good and bad came in the annual television rerun of The Wizard of Oz, which was standard family viewing when I was a kid. I was both delighted and haunted by Dorothy getting credit for dropping a house on the Wicked Witch of the East, and that initial question posed by the Munchkins: are you a good witch or a bad witch? In the movie, 11-year-old Dorothy, confronted by the Wicked Witch of the West, pleads her innocence. It was an accident. I didn't mean to kill anybody. And now the well-intended Dorothy the doggy defender has two problems: the vengeance of the evil witch and the fact she is a long way from Kansas and needs to follow the yellow brick road to the Wizard of Oz, who is sure to help her get home. Along the way, Dorothy meets a scarecrow who wants a brain, a tin man who desires a heart, and a lion who needs courage. She passes through the forest, a field of poisonous poppies, and eventually arrives at Emerald City. I watched this movie again last week and was intrigued and thoroughly entertained, even as an adult. For me, I also noticed it plays out a little like Psalm 23. Right paths, dark valleys, majestic fields, enemies to confront, and eventually a safe return home. Goodness and kindness indeed follow Dorothy. But I also noticed something else. All of the characters in this movie were white, not a single African American. So I did a little research, and I learned that because it was 1930s segregated Hollywood, none of the stereotypes of the times were called for in The Wizard of Oz, and therefore there were no black actors needed. Which got me thinking back to Psalm 23 and the virtual rally on June 3rd, called by Rabbi David Kamen here in Gainesville. This was a virtual rally in memory of George Floyd and in support of our black community. Clergy from multiple faith traditions, including our own Talia Raymond, gathered in interfaith prayer, support, and solidarity. One of the speakers, Reverend Deborah Hepburn, mentioned in her comments that in the wake of the news of the deaths of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd, her children had started to challenge God. She said her response was to return them to Psalm 23, which she called our normal here at home. She proceeded to recite the psalm to us as her prayer offering for the rally. Inspired to learn more, I emailed Reverend Hepburn and I asked if she would be willing to share more about how Psalm 23 is a touchstone in her home. Reverend Hepburn and I had an in-depth phone conversation in which I learned a few things. When she said her children had started to challenge God, she meant all her children, young people, lots of them, her entire black Christian community, including nieces, nephews, sons, and daughters. And then she said, we're struggling right now with the God we teach them about, the one who takes care of his children. Their questions: how could God look at a man being choked to death or strangled, literally lynched on the street, and do nothing, not provide a way out? Does God care about black people? Does God love black people? Throughout history, why is this still happening? Her response? She leads them back to the psalm. Yea, though I walk through the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. She told me that she affirms to her kids that there can be no shadow without light. Light is there. Light is cast upon this evil of racism. And finally, Reverend Hepburn said she believes there is a redemptive value in the burden of suffering that she bears. She said, I want to prepare the way for the generation coming after me. She prays for wisdom and strength and courage. Here's my takeaway. I've used now for a couple years as a postscript in my email signature the following sure and comforting line: your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life. I realized this week that for me, that's my white privilege epitaph. And thanks to the willingness of Reverend Hepburn to share her perspective, I learned that she, an African-American chaplain, lives by a different postscript. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me, comforting me with your rod and your staff, showing me each step. So in my spiritual journey, I'm going to back way up. Even though I'm 59, being good and kind clearly needs more work. My proclamation that goodness and kindness will follow begins again with the willingness to look at my whiteness, my images of God, and how my whiteness has helped shape who I am today. And I want to listen to and attempt to understand the experiences of others, not of my race. So back to the yellow brick road. I pray for a brain, a heart, the nerve. I'm certain I have some deeper work to do on what it means to be good and to be kind, and to work to ensure that goodness and kindness follows everyone, every child of God. Hear now this prayer. May goodness and kindness follow me and us and all of your children all the way home in the days ahead. Grant us the strength and courage to whirl a house or a bucket of healing water or thousands of beams of light, whatever it takes to break down the wickedness of systemic racism. Dear God, comfort and guide us so that we may walk together on the road home to freedom and justice for all. And when we lay down to sleep at night, may we find love and mercy has been with us all along, regardless of the color of our skin. I offer these prayers in all the holy names of God. Amen.
Remember to join us each Sunday at 11:15 a.m. for Sunday seminars on Zoom. The link can be found in your email bulletin.
Thank you for joining us at the United Church of Gainesville today. To learn more about who we are and what we believe and to support our ministry, please visit ucgainesville.org.